We're live. Hello, everyone. It's Friday. And what's that mean? It means it's time for the manufacturing e-commerce success. Kurt, are you excited today?
Oh, dude, if I was any more excited, I'd be like, you'd have to call 911 right now, Damon.
Yeah.
My pacemaker's just like going. I might have to adjust my pacemaker.
Yeah, I gotta adjust it here a
but
little
this
bit.
is a big one here, dude.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. We're excited today. We're going to be talking about helping machine shops excel. We got Paul Van Metre, but I'm going to turn this over to the co-host right there. And I love how I can just point the direction now, Kurt, and we don't have to worry about it in StreamYard. But Kurt, take it away. My brother from another mother, Kurt Anderson.
Damon, thank you, dude. What an amazing week. Other than, I love how your Mariners, they intentionally they're just like playing with the Houston Astros like a little toy, now you're just going to come roaring back. So, all right. So anyway, guys, happy Friday. What an amazing, incredible honor and privilege. This is so long overdue, man. I'm like president of the ProShop fan club. And if you're like, what is ProShop?
Yes.
My good buddy, Paul Van Metre. Paul, happy Friday. How are you doing?
Thank you, guys. I am so pumped to be here. Just love the energy. You guys make me blush, like I said in the chat earlier this morning. Just thank you so much for your advocacy. It's been amazing.
Well, this is amazing, guys. And if you're new to this story, this is just an incredible, I don't use the word serial entrepreneur loosely. Paul's truly a serial entrepreneur, started a machine shop. We're going to dig into that today. Started a of course, like Damon, it's like makes perfect sense. He's going to build a 17-year machine shop, and then why not just build a software company, right?
Yeah.
Perfect correlation. We're going to kind of walk through that today. But Paul, before we dig into you, your background, all this stuff, you are an incredible inspiration. I had the honor and privilege. You and I connected. Actually, we go way back pre-COVID. But my first question for you today, I'd like to ask, being this relentless entrepreneur that you are, as you were a young man growing up, who was your hero? Who was your hero growing up that led you down this path of owning a machine shop, owning a SaaS product? Who was your hero as a young man growing up?
Oh, well, my family was not in manufacturing at all, but I would say my mom and dad were my heroes, without a doubt.
Let's hear about it. What mom and dad's name? What are mom and dad's names?
Patty is my mom. And I was lucky. I say I'm blessed to have two dads. I had my Dale was my dad by birth, and then Bob was my stepdad, who loved me like I was his own son. And they
awesome.
They were amazing.
So let's shed a little light. What was so inspiring, and what was so inspiring about mom and dad? And blessed that you had two dads. What was so inspiring that they led as you were growing up?
I mean, my mom worked in healthcare and was the executive director of health organizations, and just put her heart and soul into it, really followed her convictions. My birth dad was a crazy entrepreneur. He had like 5 totally unique careers. Many of them were his own companies. And then my stepdad was just so hardworking, so down to earth, and cared for us so deeply as kids that it was just wonderful parents. Wonderful parents.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and big shout out to Patty and Bob and your birth dad. What did you say his name was?
Dale.
Okay. And so what a great inspiration. And so, as you grew up, you go off to college, and at college, to my understanding, dude, you worked on race cars, man. I didn't do anything fun and exciting when I was at college during the classroom. That was after class. But share a little bit about what led you, who goes to college and work on race cars? Sure.
My path was actually a little more circuitous than that. So I actually took a gap year. Because when I was a senior in high school, I was reading one of my car magazines, and I read about this program. It was actually a mechanics race program in California. So you basically got to learn how to be a race mechanic on race cars. And instead of paying you money, they let you race the cars. So I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. So I moved to Monterey, California, worked at the Jim Russell Racing School at Laguna Seca, which is a iconic racetrack.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. That's just incredible, dude.
So learned how to be a race mechanic, got my race mechanic license, did a lot of racing, just had a ton of fun, and then went straight from there to Boston University for mechanical engineering, because I wanted to design and build cars. And I figured there's no better way for me to know how to design a car if I don't know how to work on cars and fix cars. So that's why I've always had this thought that like all architects should absolutely be carpenters for at least a year or two, right? They need to know how a house is actually built.
Right.
So I figured I need to know how cars are made so I can go design them. Because mechanical engineering was the closest thing I knew to figure out how to be a car designer. I was super crazy motorhead, just loved cars. So I did my first year at Boston, came home for Christmas break during that year as a freshman, and I was laying on the couch reading another car magazine. And I read about this program out at Western Washington University in Bellingham, Washington, called the Vehicle Research Institute. And I just could not believe what I was reading. I was like, there's a place where you can actually go design and actually build the cars in college. So I remember, and this is another part, just I love my mom. I'm laying on the couch. I said, Mom, I'm dropping out of BU and I'm moving to Washington State to build cars. And she said, that's nice. That's great. Have fun. Whatever you want to do, I'm behind you 100%. So that's what I did. I finished my first year. I moved to Washington and got into this program where every day was like in the classroom and then out in the lab, tearing apart engines, building new parts on CNC machines, building cars, competing against other universities. That was the most fun. So every year in September, we'd start designing, or maybe in the summer, we start designing a new car.
Right.
We'd build it through the winter. We'd assemble it in the spring, and then we'd go race against other universities in May.
Right.
And what a trial by fire, of an experience. We were on our own. We had to fundraise our own money to build the cars.
Did you really?
Yeah, we didn't get any financial support from the school, besides the fact that they had an amazing machine shop.
Right.
And they had tons of aluminum laying around because Boeing would donate surplus aluminum.
Right.
So we had CNC machines and free aluminum. So we CNC machined everything.
Yeah.
So that leads into how we started a machine shop, because we fell in love with machining and manufacturing. And the lesser known story is we actually wanted to start a small niche car company, but we didn't have the money to start a car company. All we had was basically some funds from a second mortgage that one of my partners took out on his house. And that was only enough money to buy a CNC machine and maybe a manual mill and lathe and have a few months of rent left over before we needed to start, paying the bills from revenue off the machines.
Right. Right.
So yeah, me and 5 other guys started Pro CNC right out of college in '97.
Oh my God! All right, so let's recap this. And so where did you grow up? Where was mom living?
grew up
on the couch.
Well, mostly New Jersey.
You're a Jersey guy.
Which is why I went to Boston, because I was on the East Coast, and my girlfriend from high school was going to Boston, and I figured, what the heck, they have a good engineering program.
Yeah, I'll go to Boston.
That's where I went.
So Jersey guy ends up at an iconic racetrack. That was your gap year. You're all about cars. Go to Boston University for mechanical engineering, read in a magazine while on Christmas break, and decide to turn around and go to Western Washington. Yes,
2 times car magazines have changed my life. When I went to the racing school, and then when I came to Western. And actually, I was several years ago. I was a commencement speaker at Western, and the theme of my story was that car magazines will change your life. So read car magazines. Change your life.
So just on a side note, as your wife, are you allowed to still read car magazines, like just in case of any dramatic life changes, or is she okay with that? How's that work?
She's okay. Yeah,
she's okay with that. Okay. So all right, and we have a ton to cover, and can you just. The car company, you're going to start a car company?
We were going to start a car company. We had it designed. So here was the very naive thinking. There's 6 of us that want to start a car company together. Yeah. We don't have enough money for that.
Yeah.
Let's start a machine shop, because a machine shop needs all the same kind of equipment and processes and people and infrastructure for at least the way we wanted to design a car. It was going to be very CNC machining and composite heavy. Because if you saw the cars that we built, and in fact, this part off my wall, this is one of the pieces from the cars we built in college.
That is
So
awesome.
it's all machined. It's 2 parts. It's really lightweight and strong and cool. And we wanted to build a road car similar to that. Anyway, so the naive part came from, well, after only like maybe a couple of years, we'll have enough free cash flow, free time that we can start
Free
building
time.
a prototype car
Yeah.
and get some investors and then start the car company.
The car company. Nice.
How many, business owners of a machine shop, nonetheless, do you think have plenty of free cash flow and free time only 2 years in?
Yeah. And we'll just start a car company. Right.
No one does that.
We'll start a car company, and we're going to compete against Ford and General Motors.
Well, it was going to be very nichey, maybe like 100 cars a year, 200 cars a year for very exclusive, enthusiasts that love the kind of stuff that we loved.
That you loved. All right. Awesome. All right. So guys, just if you're out there, number one, happy Friday to you. Drop us a note in the chat box. You absolutely want to connect with Paul. Man, dude, you're exceeding my expectations. We're in the first 5 minutes here. All right, let's keep rolling. So, all right. So just recap, car enthusiast isn't the right word. Evangelist. You're a car evangelist.
Yeah.
As a college kid, and just for any young folks out there, man, and you're going off to college and you think manufacturing is not a career, well, we're going to turn that story around right here. We're dispelling that myth right here, Paul Van Metre. So let's go into it. So you guys, walk us through. You were in college, sitting around. Was it on a bar napkin? How did the vision, how did the dream come to life to start the CNC shop? You're what, 22 years old?
22, 23, yeah. We keep in mind every year we're designing and building a car. It's super intense. We're working literally, some weeks 120 hours a week in the lab.
Just obsessed.
Sleeping for 4 hours a night in one of the other cars from the prior year, just like in the driver's seat, wake up, do it again for another 20 hours, right? But we really loved working together. This team was we gelled. We were just
magic.
Really good friends, really worked together under stress well. And we're like, we don't want to go off, scatter to the wind after college. We really like working together. And we loved these cars. And we came up with this sort of design idea for how a car could be built using machined parts and composites. And we're like, that is an idea that we want to pursue. So, but we didn't have any money to do it. So hence the machine shop.
Yeah.
Okay. So how many guys started the shop?
6.
6 of you. So
6 with one CNC machine. That thing ran around the clock, I'll tell you.
All right. And we're I want plenty of time so we can take a deep dive into ProShop, but just walk us through. Okay. When you flip that switch, 22, bunch of 22, 23-year-olds, 6 of you, you get this company, obviously you guys needed a paycheck. How'd you get your first customer?
Our first customer was actually, a professor that we had in college that had gone off into industry, and he needed software. He needed a mold for a snowshoe, a carbon fiber snowshoe. So we got this mold. It was like a 2-piece mold, top and bottom. We put it on the little cheesy brochure we made, after that, and then started. So that was our first job. It was a $5,000 job. We couldn't believe how much money it was. It was like, that's a huge job. That's so much money.
Right.
And then we just started knocking on doors. Other people we kind of knew or they knew, and just very meagerly started to build it up. Didn't take a single paycheck for, I think, 9 months or more. And then after that, it was maybe $500 a month,
just get things
lots of ramen. I was grateful. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, she supported our family because she had a good job. All the other guys lived in a big house together, ate lots of ramen and peanut butter sandwiches.
Right. Working together, living together. Did each guy kind of take a different role? Like maybe was one person sales, another person was stronger in finance. Somebody how'd you guys
ultimately at the beginning, it was just a free for all. Everyone was doing everything.
Yeah.
But we definitely did specialize fairly quickly. One guy took more of the sort of finance role. One of them took more operations.
Yep.
I fell into kind of estimating and sales and marketing.
Yep.
But still ran machines, swept the floors, cleaned the toilets, all the stuff. Right.
Right. So, all right. So this is 97, 98, right? When you're getting things taken off. So now for a shameless plug, you and I, we're doing a super fun webinar on Tuesday at ProShop. And part of the webinar, I don't know if anybody's out there, just a little sneak peek, we're going to go into the Wayback Machine. So if you guys, if you ever Google Wayback Machine and you want to pull up, you want to see what your website looks like from way back when, go to Wayback Machine. And so, Paul, we're going to take a look at ProShop and the Wayback. We're going to look at Pro CNC was the name of your company. So, Damon, we're going to take a couple of screenshots from like 2000, 2003. But, Paul, you did an amazing job early on. Again, you guys were young, you're fresh, you're just out of college. And even at that stage, you saw the value of search, attacking search engines, and just let's scratch the surface there and what you did. My God, 22 years ago. On search. Just talk a little bit about what you did and how you were getting first page, not only first page, but #1 rankings on a lot of your keywords.
Yeah. So I, you know, the internet was just barely a thing back then. So we did build a website. And then I somehow got into, I don't know if it was a podcast, maybe it was did they have podcasts back then? I got into this woman that did SEO, search engine optimization.
Yep.
And she talked about how important it was, and this is what you got to do. So I just followed everything she told me to do.
Yeah.
And you know, lo and behold, we start getting a bunch of people calling us and emailing us saying, "I found you on the internet." And so I, you know, one day I did it myself. I'm like, I searched CNC machine shop, and ProCNC.com was the #1 organic result.
Yeah.
Like top page #1. I was like, wow. You know, and so we held on to that spot for maybe a couple years, and then it started getting so competitive, and people were throwing much more money at it than we could afford, and we, you know, didn't stay in that #1 spot, but it was huge for us back then.
Yeah, and it was Dan Bigger.
Dan Bigger says, "Breathe, Kurt."
Let me get my oxygen going here, Dan. So, I just absolutely, Dan knows I just love
that's
this
awesome.
stuff. I geek out on this. So, all right, let's walk through. So, let's fast forward a little bit, Paul. So now, like, you're building, you're growing, and to my understanding, like, you know, like triple digits year over year, right? Like you're growing at 100% at a clip at times. How did you guys? And again, like at one, you know, how. It's just so fascinating how the six of you gelled and how you really built this powerhouse and you went up to 75 employees. Can you talk about like that? If there's a manufacturer, there's an entrepreneur out there, you're like, man, Paul, this is amazing. Like talk a little bit about leadership, how you handled that growth, how you drove that growth. Just talk about that stage in your career.
I think one of the most important factors, well, there's so many in our growth, was one, we were really, really focused on process.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was not the Wild West in our shop, at least not after the first couple of years.
Yeah.
We were, you know, how does it work? How is it supposed to work? How do we optimize that process? How do we make it repeatable?
Yeah.
How do we offload it to someone else so
Yeah.
they can do it just as well as I can do it?
Yeah.
Quite honestly, I'm sure you guys have read the book, The E-Myth.
Oh yeah, sure. Oh, so you guys were big believers.
We were
that
big
a game changer for you?
Yeah, we were big believers in that.
As a matter of fact,
you have it on the shelf.
Mine's right up here.
On the shelf, right? So
yeah, it's right up here,
over there somewhere. But sure. So Michael Gerber,
Yep.
if you're an entrepreneur and you're not familiar with this book, boy, strongly encourage you. We implore you to get the E-Myth book. Paul, and that's fascinating. As a matter of fact, I was just talking with Nicole Donnelly about the E-Myth book this week, Damon, and it's a great book on how, you know, taking a scalable process. And Michael Gerber loves and worships the McDonald's concept. And any podcast you listen to with Michael Gerber, he thinks Ray Kroc, and I agree with him, is one of the most brilliant entrepreneurs. Maybe you don't agree with the food or, you know, the healthiness of the food, but the business process. Boy, you piqued my curiosity. I'm going off script. Share how E-Myth transposed and really elevated your company.
Well, and this is around the same time we were getting big enough that we needed some software besides Excel. And so we pulled down the green book, the Thomas Guide, and we started looking in the software ERP category, because apparently that's what the software is called. Like we've never worked anywhere except our own company and maybe pizza during college, but we had no idea what ERP software was.
Right.
So we're like asking other shops, how do you manage your jobs and your quotes and your everything? And they're like, well, you need some ERP software. Okay. Right. So we started getting, and we had, business partner, Kelsey, who is absolutely brilliant, one of the most brilliant people ever. But also, to come to your point about how did we grow, we were also, besides being focused on process, we were just there in the trenches with our team. Like, we never had our own offices. We were just like, sitting right next, shoulder to shoulder with everyone on the team.
Yeah.
Valuing their opinions and their ideas just as much as our own. And Kelsey is a huge, proponent of doing it that way. And anyway, Kelsey was super smart. He was doing all sorts of really fancy stuff in Excel with Visual Basic macros and spawning sheets and doing all sorts of fancy stuff. But we were managing our shop, pretty successfully on Excel. We were paperless back then. We had big, huge 22-inch CRT monitors, that weighed 70 pounds next to the CNC machines.
Right.
Because we would just pull up the Excel sheet and we'd have everything we needed. We'd have our setup notes, we'd have our tool lists, we'd have our G-code stuff on there, our G54 offsets, everything was right there. Yeah. And so when we got these ERP vendors to come give us demos, they're like, no, we don't do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
We're like, what do you mean? You're supposed to be ERP for a machine shop. Where's all the features about machine shops? They're like, we don't have any of those features.
Right.
You can still use Excel for that. We just do these other things like inventory and like putting orders in. And we're like, that's not the most important thing in a shop. The most important thing in a shop is executing on the shop floor every day. So that's when we decided, well, these are ridiculous. We'd spend a ton of money, and they are all paper-based too. That was the other thing. They're like, yes, you use it in the office,
paper trail,
and then you print out paper, and you use the paper in the shop. And we're like, but we're not even doing that today. We're all paperless already. And,
and this is like what, 2000, what?
This is 99.
Oh, 99. You guys are paperless in 99?
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude.
I mean, we had these big monitors, machines, and these big, huge tower computers that were just massive. And so we said, well, screw that. We're just going to build our own software. We know a guy who's a software developer. And so he started building it for us, and he basically became a full-time employee. And we just, and we credit, as you're growing 100%, it gets messy in a hurry if you're not founded in good, solid process.
Yeah.
And so we built that concept, which came from the E-Myth, that this franchise prototype, like if we can design our shop to run like a franchise, as if we could spawn off multiple versions of it and it would run just as smoothly as ours, that's going to be the best way that our shop will run smoothly and profitably. And so we just went all in on that concept, and we built those features into ProShop. So we credit ProShop as being the backbone of that growth that allowed us to grow that fast for so many years without it getting too crazy.
And you got to believe that as you were growing like that, that made the ProShop product better and better, because you were running into stuff. This just doesn't work anymore. We got to get it better. This doesn't work anymore. We need this new feature to help the problem that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind how I described the management style of sitting shoulder to shoulder with our team. That was how we developed the software. We're right there next to the programmer, next to the receiving guy, next to the shipper, saying, how is this working for you? What do you need? And what would make your job better?
Right.
And we had, 75 people telling us what they needed for their jobs
to succeed.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Let's take a moment, Paul. On our program, we take moments of silence when it's time to just kind of savor and digest of what's taking place right here. So this is incredible. When you think about, I honestly think you're one of the first, not that I talk to that many people, you're one of the first people I've ever heard that use the E-Myth at a manufacturer. As a matter of fact, I used to go into manufacturers. I'd carry my E-Myth book and be like, hey, have you guys read this? Have you guys read this? All the time, dude. It's like, man, this is just music to my ears.
I think it was 2017. I was lucky enough to get a speaking spot at the Top Shops conference that Modern Machine Shop magazine puts on.
Yeah.
And my topic was a machine shop franchise prototype ?
Dude,
does this
oh
work?
my God. Like Damon, you and I have our little bromance. Paul, I hate to embarrass you. I know you're a married man, but I just have like a big man crush that
Yeah.
we're gonna take a deep, Damon, right? We
No
just have
doubt.
a big man crush. All right, let's keep this party rolling. So you guys, you create your own product as a machine shop. One last question, and then we're going to slide into one more question about Pro CNC. Of course, we are more than welcome to go back there, but I want to take a deep dive into ProShop. When you got up to 75 people, Paul, now, so just so folks know, you had an incredible, wonderful, successful exit. That's Damon, you're singing your song, right?
That's what we
So
do.
how did that, talk a little bit about, say a manufacturer out there, as you know, probably most of your clients, they've had the company, maybe second, third generation. They've had the business for 20 or 30 years. Maybe they're Gen X baby boomers. And they're like, you sold your company? How did you sell your machine shop? Can you just walk through the mindset of you, your owners, what it looked like when that came through? And let's talk about your exit, and then we're going to slide into ProShop.
Sure. I apologize. The train's going by. Yeah. So when we realized that we had a bigger opportunity in software to help other shops like ours, we made the decision we can't do both. We don't want to split our efforts into still running the machine shop and doing software. So let's sell the machine shop. We researched how do you sell a company, right? And ultimately we decided on working with a sort of a business broker type of, M&A company, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they came and did lots of research on us. We collated all sorts of numbers. They made a book, like a 50 or 75 page book about the company.
Yep.
And then a 1-page sort of anonymous flyer, right? Yep. And then they sent out the flyer to, the hundreds or thousands of companies or people that want to buy businesses or different networks or platforms or whatever they do. And then, lots of people sent in a letter of interest, right? And then they had to sign an NDA before they got the book. And then they got the book, and then they tried to orchestrate basically a bidding war. That's the best way to go, right, Damon?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so ultimately we had I think 8 or 10 companies all sort of bidding on the company, and they tried to play them off each other and have your bids in by a certain day. And, it was pretty exciting stuff. And people ask me about that. And one of the important things that I think matters is we finally got to the point where we sat down with 6 different companies that actually flew into Bellingham.
Yeah.
And we went to a hotel conference room and met them at different points of the day. And the person that was offering the most money, the company was offering the most money, he said, what's your intention? What are you going to do with the business?
Yeah.
He said, well, we have our own products and we're looking for, other things. But basically we're going to move the business to Romania, bring all the machines, if people want to come, they can come, but otherwise people don't matter. And we'll make all the parts in Romania. And we were like, get the hell out of this room. I don't care how much money you're offering us. That's not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So we settled on another company that planned to invest right where we were with our people, with our customers, and that's what happened, and it's thrived since. So
yeah,
awesome.
Create that legacy, leave the legacy that you want, and that's really important in buyer and seller fit. Is you got to see the legacy is going to be carried on as you want it to be.
And really the customers of course are very important, but the employees, the fact that they were going to get out of Dodge, what? That's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no way in hell.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So successful exit. And, I don't want to say every entrepreneur's dream, but, at some point in time, we need to exit our business. So instead of having it dissolve, go away, close the doors. God bless you guys. You had this wonderful, incredible, successful exit, as Damon just said, maintain the legacy, hung on to your employees, carried that on. Paul, so, kind of went in the Super Bowl World Series, right? And sometimes, people celebrate, pop the champagne. Hey, we sold the business, but it sounds like you guys, you were selling this to get into the software company. Is that what the transition was?
100%.
100%. So like there was no like pausing. Hey, we just won the Super Bowl. Let's take a year off. You guys were like full throttle going. Now we're going to start ProShop. This
Doubling
is a SaaS
down.
ERP. And we're now, and if you don't mind me, was it you, Kelsey, was it all 6 partners, or what did ProShop?
No, actually over the prior 17 years, 3 of the 6 had moved on to other
Moved
things.
on other things. Okay. Awesome.
All still really good friends. We're actually getting together in a couple of weeks, all of us.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
But and 4 of us are now still involved in the software company. One kind of came back.
Yeah.
Works for us, and the 3 of us also were active. Yes. So that was the plan. That's
Okay.
So you roll into software. What just surprised the hell out of you about being in software?
It's very different than being in manufacturing. You're not building a physical thing anymore that you have to put in a box and ship it to the customer. Right. But there's also, and having built, so when we sold Pro CNC, we had 4 customers already. We had 4 software customers.
4 software.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So part of the story in 2008, our biggest machine shop customer, actually one of their key employees, their production manager, actually came and worked for us on the weekends to earn some extra money for a sports court he wanted to build for his kids.
Right.
And I didn't learn that part of the story until years later when he was selling his house. But anyway, he came up on the weekends, worked with us, was like, this is the most amazing software, way better than what we use at our company.
Right.
Who can we talk to buy this? And they're like, well, we built it and it's not for sale. But anyway, ultimately we decided
not for sale yet.
Yeah.
That's what happened. So we decided after a little while, well, what if we did try this?
Right.
And so we did, and that was 2009. And it was within just 3 or 4 months, it revolutionized their whole company. Like it just rocked their world in the best way. It was amazing the results they got. So they were so happy with it, and of course, keep in mind they were an OEM manufacturer of aerospace parts, and they outsourced lots of machining work to lots of other shops.
Yeah.
And they said, "This is amazing. We love it. We have other vendors like you that aren't performing nearly as well, probably because they don't have good software. Can you help your other competitors, to be a better vendor for us?"
Yeah.
So after some consternation, we said, all right, we'll try it. So
right.
We sold it 2 or 3 more times. And also with just huge successes. Right.
Right.
And so that's through this process, we're like, all right, we got to bring this to market, because running a machine shop is the hardest business in the world. People put in, their life savings, the blood, sweat, and tears for years.
Right. Capital intensive.
So hard.
Yeah. Right.
And our software apparently makes a meaningful difference. So
it apparently makes a meaningful. So,
we have an obligation to bring this to the world.
All right. Yeah. So on that, guys, if you're out there, please drop a note, give a hello to Paul. Let us know that you're out there. We're with Paul Van Metre, the co-founder of ProShop ERP. Paul, I know you're a humble man. Sit back and relax, because I'm going to read off I would be here all day if I shared some of the testimonials that people share about ProShop. Damon, I picked out a few good ones. So just sit back and relax. I'm going to share a few here. So best machine shop software on the market. Our growth would not be possible without ProShop. The system is extremely powerful, helps employees stay focused on goals and KPIs. ProShop has transformed our business. ProShop is a game changer for our shop. The people at ProShop have real machine shop experience. Monthly webinars, would not recommend any other ERP. Highly detailed. Support is tremendous. ProShop is one of the most powerful changes implemented in my shop. Support is second to none. I could go on and on and on. Paul, you were just talking about customer ambassadors. Dude, how are you creating these raving fans, man? Like, give us your secret sauce, man. Like, how are you doing it?
I think I need my tissues.
Hey, I got one here somewhere. That's Damon.
Like
Damon and I
rock
keep
here.
issues on the show just in case.
Yeah, we do.
I think it comes from the fact that we believe so much in them, in this industry, in how hard it is, in how important it is to the economy. And I am going to tear up at this.
Yeah.
It is so important. And I think that passion for how much we care comes through.
Yeah, it does. And oh my God, you guys are giving me chills. As a matter of fact, so you know what? You guys collect yourselves. I have one. While we're here, I have one more. I have one more juicy one for you, Paul. And I don't know if you remember this one. So it's a little case study. Okay, ready?
Okay.
Are you guys comfortable? Let's hear this one. When we first met Paul during our search for a new ERP, I rolled my own ERP system at my last company, and the current ERP system was lacking. I've seen some of the offerings that they all seem to be a rehash of the system we had. I was on the verge of again writing my own solution when I was introduced to ProShop. It appeared to have, get this, it appeared to have everything we were looking for. In fact, I had a list of 11 things that I was missing from my current system. ProShop not only had all of them, ready? Paul presented several that I hadn't even thought of. I told the owner, let's focus on machining. Let's let them focus on making the ERP system. He goes on how they had a really tight timeline. Paul, you probably remember, and this was from years ago. It goes on to say, and get this, this is the change that Paul Van Metre, Kelsey, the team at ProShop, this is what they deliver. Our lead times dropped from 6 to 8 weeks down to 4. We regularly pulled off 2-week lead times. ProShop is our secret sauce. Paul always kept a pulse on our deployment. He would regularly check in with us after deployment. ProShop is a great software, but it's the people that make it work on a daily basis. Dude, you're changing lives, man. You are changing lives. You're changing businesses. You know, like we're good friends with our buddy Andy Reinwald at Ripley Machine Tool. You know, young guy in his 20s. He's a millennial, took over Grandpa's machine shop. He's busy making parts, man. He's posting like on a Saturday night at like 2 a.m, like, guys, I'm making parts, right?
Yeah,
but
he's a machine.
You give our good buddy Andrew the peace of mind to be the best at being the widget maker, and he doesn't need to be the ERP guru. You've simplified it. You've made it so manageable, palatable. You speak their language. Dude, you're changing lives. How, like, just talk about ProShop, the culture you've created, your team. Let's take a deep dive on what ProShop's doing.
Wow. Yeah. It is so humbling to know that we've changed lives like that. And that's what gets me up out of bed every morning. Just so excited to do it again. We have an amazing team. So we have when we sold the business and started the software company, we had 4 customers, and there was four of us that came across with it. And today we have about 65 team members,
65
all over the world. And that team just is almost off the charts amazing. Actually, we have been incredibly blessed that probably 15 or so of those folks followed us from ProCNC.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Directly or indirectly, you know, they were years ago and found their way back to work for us again.
Yeah.
So they come, so that in and of itself is really important because they have deep shop floor experience.
Yeah.
So we're not only do the founders know the machine shop business, but all the implementation folks and support folks, you know, a lot of them know it really deeply as well. And so that's imperative that if we're training someone on how to use our software, the people doing the training have to know more than just how the software works. They need to know why it works that way.
Right.
Or else they can't connect the dots to get customers.
You know, and that's the key to developing the right software. And like you said, getting your customers to be able to utilize it is that knowledge. Because, you know, you guys started out from the development part of it. And now that you're continuing on with you're still developing based on customer stuff, but customer feedback, but you had your team now that knowledge is critical. Because I mean, I've implemented, I think it's 8 or 9 ERP systems, right? And 3 of them I think were in machine shops or fabrication facilities. You don't even call the ERP people because they don't know what the hell you're doing.
Right.
That's
They
typical.
don't.
Yeah.
Right.
And you guys do. You can stand beside the shop floor manager and say, this is how your employees use this on a daily basis, and train the employees and do all that, which is so key.
Right. Paul, let's go here and I think, Damon, that's a phenomenal point. And I think one of the testimonials I read, it was talking about, like so much of the software is created by, operation or finance folks, but they don't understand machine shop speed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So Paul, when you get into this situation, all right, let's go back. So you launched ProShop in 2015. Do I have that correct?
16.
Okay.
Yep.
So you launched in 16, you've got 4 customers, 4 employees. Can you share, like, was there, what was that leap of faith like, man? I mean, granted, you just sold a company, so I'm, not making any assumptions, but you have, maybe announced a security there. But talk a little bit about, like, again, if there's entrepreneurs out there, or maybe there's employees out there that have that entrepreneurial dream, like, man, I want to start something. Was there a point where, fear, concern for the other 4? That's part of my question. I know I'm not supposed to do this, but I'm going to ask a 2-part question. The second part, was there a point where you felt like, I think we're going to turn the corner? We've got some really good momentum, but talk about the early 16, 17. What did those years look like from? And again, I want to emphasize, Damon, what you just talked about. I had a product business for 20 years. When you get out of a product business and you're selling time management, consulting, software, a SaaS product, it is apples and oranges to selling a product inventory driven business. I just want to like, if you haven't done it, it is apples to oranges. Paul, just share, like, what was 2016, 17? Walk us through that. What was going on in your mind, your feelings? Like, what was that like?
Well, first we knew we had success with those 4 customers, but we really were not confident about how the market might embrace us. Right.
Yeah.
It is such a crowded space. There are literally hundreds of products that we're competing against.
Yep.
And even in our little niche, there's, a dozen or more that specialize just in machine shops.
Yeah.
So success was by no means a guarantee. So we just, we built a website. We figured out marketing brochures and, whatever other things we did. I remember doing a very small little trade show, here in the Seattle area with the Pacific Northwest Aerospace Alliance, and meeting some people, and I think we got maybe 1 customer out of that. 2016 was slow, it was a slow start. I think maybe we had 3 or 4 total customers, maybe 5 in 2016. But still, that was double what we had before. So we're busy onboarding them and figuring out, well, how do we train people now? So everything we had to build from scratch. But we went back to those same principles from the eMyth, right? How do we make this a process? So that helped. Still building process today. You're never done doing that.
So I just want to chime in real quick. So once again, took the success and again, what I admire about you, my respect, admiration, you've built an incredible company. You're always talking about the culture, as you described when you sold the business. It was employee first focus. Even at ProShop, your branding, your website, like everything is it looks just so intentional. But once again, you took that eMyth concept and you brought it into ProShop. Is that
100%? 100%.
Oh my God, dude, that is so good.
Because most people don't know this. We run our software company on ProShop. It is our own ERP, even though it's designed for manufacturing.
Right.
We absolutely 100% run our business on it.
Right.
So, just some of the things that, like, we have a company positions module where you can design a position in a company, the job description, all the things you need to learn to be in that role, what the metrics are for that position.
Right.
And that's scalable no matter what kind of business you have.
Yeah.
But that's bringing it so back to the eMyth concept.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm doing receiving, which I did, at the beginning, what are the things when I ultimately want to buy back my time and stop doing receiving and do more important things to the growth of the business? how am I going to convey to a receiving person what does good look like as a receiving person, right? And how do I
Conversation had yesterday.
How do I train them to be good at it?
Yeah.
What are the metrics of being good at it? So, we built that module really early on because that was core to our, building the company and growing quickly. So, just one example of how we use it today. We have implementation specialists, and we have support people, and we have HR and finance and marketing and all those things.
We just need to take a moment, Kurt. We just need to take a moment.
Dude, this is oh my God, this is a masterclass. Now, Paul, I follow you closely on LinkedIn, as you know, and I'm constantly seeing your customers. You have those customer ambassadors, if you will, just out there ranting and raving. So I mean, you are not the best kept secret. People are well aware and put it out there on the game changing. I see videos, I see testimonials, I see like so on and so forth. We were talking about, you go to trade shows, ITMS, and, folks are talking about, what do you think? So again, if there's a company out there like, man, I want to create some raving fans, right? You Starbucks, Chick-fil-A, or, you think of like these brands, like just, Apple, or, whatever the product is, Tesla, that have these raving fans. I feel like you're doing that. And again, I know you're very modest, humble, so I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but just share a little bit on what do you feel it takes to build this raving fan base. I'm being a little Captain Obvious because you're talking about the power of the solutions, but just share a little bit about like, what does it take to create a raving fan base?
I mean, I feel like it requires, and I learned this actually from, the guys that started Airbnb, is when you're small, you have to do things that don't scale. And an example of that is the guys that started Airbnb, when they were very tiny, they would go out themselves and take pictures of the properties that people were listing on Airbnb.
Okay. Yeah.
I forget their names. I should know them.
Yeah, I'm with you. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Drive there, fly there.
Yep.
Say, hey, you just listed your house on Airbnb. We're here to take really nice pictures.
Yep. And we'll do it for you.
See what your place looks like.
Yep.
And so early on of ProShop, I did all the demos. Anyone, the phone number on our website used to be my cell phone number, right? So like, anyone in the world would just call up ProShop and they're like, hey, this is Paul. How can I help you? Right. And that served us really well for the first 3 years. Right.
Yeah.
Maybe 4, 3. And so just having like an absolute 100% driven focus on the client experience and delivering that yourself, so you know exactly how it goes, what matters to them, things they are concerned about. People are really concerned about switching an ERP system because traditionally it has like a 70% failure rate.
Yeah.
It's an off the charts risky proposition.
Right.
Yeah.
And it can tank companies, right?
Yes.
I mean, it can
tank
so
companies,
bad.
it can tank careers, it can tank inner strife, fighting, finger pointing. I mean, I couldn't agree more.
Who would voluntarily choose this, right?
Who would voluntarily choose this?
Stupid.
Right. And so what you guys, so you and your team, you come in and your goal is, and Damon, we talk a lot on this program about that empathy and curiosity, and I think, Paul, what I'm hearing, and again, being a, self-proclaimed president of the ProShop fan club, what I admire is like you're telling your client, that ideal customer, hey dude, I've been in your shoes, I've walked in your shoes, I know what you're going through. We're going to be your Sherpa, your guide. We're going to walk through this process. We're going to get you in that 30% success rate. 70% fail, dude, we've got it. We're going to take you through. You give them the security, the comfort, and the confidence to get on to the other side, right? Where it's so easy to say, you know what? It's easier to do nothing than to do something and make this huge ERP shift, right? You come in and you're going to make that a successful changeover. Do I have that correct?
Yeah. I mean, we can't guarantee it. It's got to be a collaborative work between all the effort we put in and what they put in.
Right.
But, we have an amazingly high success rate. And I'll credit pretty much all of that to my partner, Kelsey,
Right.
and the whole team that goes and does that. Cause it's hard work and it's sometimes unpleasant work.
Mhm.
Even it's funny. We have people that voluntarily buy our product and then are just like, don't do their homework, don't show up to meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, we have a schedule we're supposed to be on to make sure you're
Right.
successful at this.
Right.
Please show up to the meeting and please do the work in between the meetings so you know what you're talking about at the next meeting.
Right.
By and large, our customers are amazing and awesome and they just jump in with both feet, but it is still hard work, and their team, even if their leadership team is all on board, if they don't have the rest of their employees on board, that can be a nasty situation.
Yeah.
So that's also one of the lessons we've learned over the years, is you gotta make sure that the customer has all their ducks in a row on their end and has like full buy-in of their whole company. And so we actually advise on, this is how you should talk to your team about it. This is the things you should do.
Right.
Don't just, watch a bunch of videos, call us up and say, yeah, I want to do this.
Right.
Let's get on several demos and make sure you get all the key stakeholders to talk with us, to see it firsthand, because it's going to impact their jobs in a massive way.
Yep.
And so I sometimes think we extend the sales cycle even longer just to make sure that it's a good fit.
Right. And that's how you create those raving fans, because, we can't be everything for everybody. Right. And so it's a great process for you to maybe, I hate to say weed out, but, maybe, there are some folks that aren't going to be vested or, get them into the end zone per se. I want to be mindful of your dude. I could talk to you all day, man.
My next meeting got canceled or moved. So I got all the time in the world.
Hey, we're going to keep it for the next 3 hours, dude.
Yeah.
So now we'll start
4 hours.
We'll start winding down. You talk a lot about on your LinkedIn profile, DFM. Okay. So I know, there's an acronym world out there. So for anybody that's not familiar with DFM, can you let's scratch on that and then we're going to start winding down.
Yeah, that's a side passion of mine. Design for manufacturability or design for manufacturing. That was one of the key differentiators that we leaned into at ProCNC, was being we went all in on trying to differentiate our shop from other shops by being really teachers and mentors of how our customers could design their parts to be less expensive. Every shop does this a little bit, but we went all in on it. We started doing webinars. We did a newsletter. We started doing in-person classes. I got to go all around the world teaching design for manufacturability. I went to Germany. I went to, all over the US to teach these classes. And I went to China 15 times.
Did you really?
That was in a different capacity, but it was very much about design for manufacturability. Anyway, so it's sort of a little side thing. Having, seen millions, thousands and thousands of part numbers, and making millions of parts, I know, and many of our team members know about what it takes to design a machined part to be better, more stable, less expensive. And so anyway, I did that for a little bit, sort of as a side consulting thing. It's so important. It's the easiest way to cut costs out of the supply chain is to design the parts to be less expensive.
And this is what's cool about that and how you were doing that and helping people. Even you call it a side thing, but most manufacturers out there, they say they do it, but not taking it to the level that you have. And when you take it to that level, you differentiate yourself miles.
Right.
And I think
I forget what year we really leaned into that, but the last several years of ProCNC, that was like our key marketing differentiator. Was we are all in on DFM. We had office hour. We would go to our local customers and spend time every week, like sitting in their engineering departments, consulting with their engineers at their desk, because the cheapest place to cut cost out is before it's even out of the CAD system.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was important. And I do think that for any shop out there, having a little lever, a differentiator that you can just really lean into and have people know that this is why I want to work with that company. That's an important thing, because it's a competitive business. I mean,
yeah,
especially not only is it one of the hardest businesses, but it's also one of the most competitive businesses. So it's like a double whammy. So,
oh, man,
we could go on a long time. I'm holding myself back here because
I'll tell you what, if anybody's catching this on replay, please, go. This was truly a masterclass from a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Took a machine shop from zero, built it into 75-person strong, sells it, starts a software company from zero, and now 65 people strong. You are changing lives. Yeah. Dude, I cannot tell you how much I just learned in the past, however long we've been chatting, Paul. This, I learn from you every time you and I chat. My respect, admiration for you, off the charts. If you guys go to ProShop.com, right? Or ProShop ERP. Yep, ProShopERP.com. And I'll tell you the great thing about you guys, you don't talk the talk, you're walking the walk. When you go on the website, all sorts of information, all sorts of resources. You guys offer webinars. And I love about your passion with DFM because, Paul, what you're doing is like you're educating. Guys, if you're out there, Whitney, I see you're out there. You're a credible educator. We just interviewed Whitney last week. And, I'll tell you, you want great marketing, you want great sales, be the educator. When you're the educator, what a better way to build trust. And you're showing that empathy, you're showing that curiosity, you're helping your ideal clients, you're helping those customers win the day, win the game. And Paul, what you're doing a great job is you're making them a hero of their own story. Our mutual friend, Allison DeFord, that's her line. She always preaches, make your customer the hero of their story. Dude, you're doing that day in, day out. My last question for you of the day. Man, was this an inspiration or what? Yes. So speaking of inspiration, Paul, you shared about Patty, Dale, and Bob. Was it Bob?
Yep.
Being your hero growing up. Today, 2022, I know you've had a video of your son in your son's been in your videos. Who or what is your inspiration today? As we're coming into the end of fourth quarter for 2022, we have our sights on 23. Who or what is your inspiration moving forward for you and your business?
It is all the shop owners that we get to talk with that are out there fighting the good fight and doing the work to build the ground foundation of our economy. They inspire me so much every day. As we all know, as we've been talking about the whole time, it's incredibly hard, right? But it's so important. Like our whole country will not function without a super strong manufacturing base.
Yeah.
And those men and women out there doing it every day, putting in their blood, sweat, and tears, every ounce of, their second mortgages, their whatever, they're signing their name on the line for machine loans. It's so inspiring. And especially the ones that are really then like getting kids involved and manufacturing day and bringing in high schools and middle schools and like, let's build up this whole industry is so important. And I've been really blessed, and I'll just throw out a plug. I have a podcast called MachineShopMastery.com. It's unrelated to ProShop. I interview shop owners, generally ones with, longer, more experienced careers, so they can really share a lot of knowledge. But I've recently had some young women on there as well. So just, if you're a shop owner and, have some wisdom to share, I'd love to possibly invite you on the show.
Absolutely, man. And I remember when you and I spoke right before you were going to launch your podcast, and we talked a little bit about that. And so you're doing an incredible job shining a bright light on folks. Again, for a shameless plug, Paul, you and I are tag teaming. We're going to do a really fun webinar this Tuesday, October 18th, 12 o'clock Eastern time, 9 o'clock Pacific. We are going to geek out hard on helping job shops and machine shops figure out this whole little e-commerce for job shops. Are you kidding?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes.
And that's what we're going to geek out hard on that. So Paul, with that, first off, big round of applause for Paul Van Metre today, co-founder of ProShop ERP. Paul, dude, we salute you. And one thing, Damon, before we wind out, I want to just recap what Paul just said. Our manufacturers are the backbone of our economy. The men and women, they are absolute heroes. We salute you. We applaud you. It's Manufacturing Month. boy, if you know a manufacturer, go out there, give them a pat on the back and thank them for making incredible, wonderful, amazing products here in the United States. There's a renaissance happening. All the cool kids are going into manufacturing. You guys don't, if you're young out there, I don't care if you're just young at heart, you don't want to miss the boat. Get into manufacturing. That's where the cool kids are hanging out. So, hey, God bless everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Damon, we've got a great, man, we've got 2 women in manufacturing next week. Monday, we've got Ashley Walters. She wrote the book Leading with Grit and Grace. She is a manufacturing rock star. We have Kathy Miller. She wrote Stilettos and Steel Toes and Stilettos and Steel Toes. I got that right. She's coming at us next Friday. So women in manufacturing next week is going to be our theme. Damon, go Mariners. Take it away, dude. What a great program this was.
Wow, Kurt, thanks so much. And Paul, thanks so much for sharing your story and sharing, just the just the passion for manufacturing in the United States. It is something that we got to get behind. We got to get our kids involved in it. There's so many great careers, so many great opportunities that we just got to keep bringing it around so people understand and keep just bringing it out. And you're doing an awesome job of that. Thanks everyone for being here. As Kurt said, we're going to be back, and we're going to wrap it up here for the manufacturing e-commerce success today, where we were talking about helping machine shops excel with none other than Paul Van Metre from ProShop ERP. If you need a ERP system for your machine shop, hey, don't listen to Paul. Look at all those testimonials. Go to ProShopERP.com and see what you think. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Really awesome to be here with you.
Paul.
Bye.